Independent retail business can mean so many things these days. A brick and mortar store, an e-commerce business, a maker's online shop, a booth at an antique mall, and more. No matter which category you're in, Kathy Cruz, a fellow retail business owner and retail educator, will teach you how to market and manage your business efficiently so you can spend time doing other things you love. Welcome to the Savvy Shopkeeper Podcast.
Welcome to episode 49 of the Savvy Shopkeeper Retail Podcast. Get unaddicted to your phone. I'm your host, Kathy Cruz. My intention for this episode is to give you one of my favorite tips to help you manage your time as a shopkeeper, especially if you use your phone a lot in business. This episode can easily spiral out of control for me. I have an entire framework for time management, but as we're in the middle of Q4, I think it's important to share this one tip because this is the one that can do substantial damage to our daily efficiency. If you run a good portion of your business off your phone like I do, then you know firsthand that notifications and those distractions that come with it can consume your entire day. Smartphones are designed to keep your attention. They keep my attention. Have you watched the documentary, The Social Dilemma? That documentary tells you the scary truth about our smartphones and how they were designed. Smartphones have become bad habits for most of us, and I'm here today to teach you how to break that habit and tell you it's going to be okay and your business is going to be okay if you do. First, I want to start off with the shopkeeper shout out. Trez, I love the name too, Trez, Trez. She's the owner of Elements of Home Studio in Ohio. She's been an independent retail store owner for over 20 years. She's definitely one of the most experienced retailers in our community, and she generously shares her knowledge with members of both Shopkeepers Lab members and Master Shopkeepers. But Trez recently sent me an email, and I was so pleasantly surprised by this email. It was pretty lengthy, but I took one part of it because this really resonated with me, and I think it'll resonate with all of you, especially if you're part of our community. But she said, there are a lot of things that you talk about that I'm already aware of, but there's so much that you talk about that I never knew I was not aware of. And having this podcast, the Facebook page, the Master Shopkeepers group helps me to, one, stay confident, and two, brings me knowledge I didn't even know I was missing. I'm so very thankful for it. I'm so grateful to be in a group of women who have a commonality and want to head in a good direction and want other women to succeed as well. Trez, she's such a good example of someone who could easily say she knows it all, but instead she chooses to remain open to learning and connecting. Trez also really captured the essence of our communities in her words when she spoke about learning and support and confidence, encouragement. So I just wanted to make sure I took a moment to give her a shout out. The email meant a lot to me. So thank you, Trez. I appreciate you, and I'm so glad you're part of Master Shopkeepers. All right, let's get started on this episode. Because most of you know, I share a lot of my own experiences, and I often talk about how I'm not perfect. So wait until you hear some of the things that I realized about my own phone use. Remember, work less and profit more is the tagline for the Savvy Shopkeeper brand. And in order to work less, one of the things shopkeepers have to work on is being efficient. And when your phone is constantly, my phone too, is constantly going off with notifications and you're opening each app to see what you've been notified about, well, that's a time suck. Now I understand some notifications are important for your business. And, if you have kids, phone calls from schools or whatever, all of that is important. Now, I'm not saying that you need to completely ignore your phone or ignore everything and go about your day, but maybe set up a system so your phone isn't such a distraction. Now, I'm an iPhone user, but even if you have an Android, you'll most likely be able to apply many of the things I'm talking about regardless of the smartphone you use. Last year, I read the book, The Joy of Missing Out by Tanya Dalton, and we'll link it in the show notes. And I also gifted this book to all of the Master Shopkeepers members, and they really appreciated it too. But in the book, Tanya talked about turning off email notifications on our phones. And I'll admit, that was a scary thought to me. But this is where my phone cleansing journey started. And once I saw how effective that was, I decided to dig in deeper over the past year. I had no idea how many settings in my phone could actually help me get unaddicted. No one ever talks about them. I simply had to take a few minutes to set it all up. So here are my 6 tips to help you get unaddicted. Number 1, turn off phone notifications. So what I did was I went through all of my apps and I identified which ones in my phone weren't a priority. And even then, I took risks with some and turned off my email and social media notifications. Now, I have multiple email accounts and I turned off all notifications for all email. And I turned off the majority of my social media notifications. So it felt scary. It sounds so dramatic. It felt risky, but I did it. Yep, email and social media. And as a retailer, you might think these notifications are a must, but they aren't. Now I choose instead to set 2 or 3 times in the day where I actually go in the apps and I check. You can actually create a schedule for yourself, or you can just maybe every few hours check rather than constantly checking or constantly getting notified. This is dedicated time, preferably with a time limit so that you can handle any questions, requests to purchase something, customer service issues, or whatever might be involved regarding those notifications. The point is, rather than constantly checking your phone and getting distracted throughout the day, and that you know how that is, that could happen 100 times in a day. Choose to block off times in your day to handle these sorts of tasks and give it a time limit. My number 2 tip is to use airplane mode. I recently asked a question in the Shopkeepers Lab about mindset, and it had nothing to do with this episode. But I was blown away by the number of responses that had to do with distractions, poor attention skills, or time management. I highly recommend setting time. Personally, I like to block my calendar to work on a specific task during a specific time. One of the most valuable things you can do in addition to this is to have uninterrupted time. So, for example, our 2021 planning session in Master Shopkeepers is on November 30th. I made sure to remind members to add the date and time to their personal calendars, but equally important, I told them to do what they needed to do so that they could be alone and focus during this 1.5 hour planning session. This might mean getting a babysitter. I told them it might mean having employees cover the store while they're alone in their office. This might mean leaving the store and going home for that 1.5 hour planning session. Or it might mean going to a local coffee shop. And of course, not all of us can go to a local coffee shop right now, but in the future, you could for uninterrupted time in terms of like having people around you that'll interrupt you. But if you want to level up on uninterrupted time, turn airplane mode on. When this is activated, the mode suspends the device's signal transmission. So you're effectively disabling all voice, text, and phone services. So if you have a 1.5 hour planning session and you've already stopped all of the in-person interruptions, if you want to stop the phone interruptions, turn airplane mode on. Does that make sense? And then when you think about this, does the thought of doing this make you sweat? And if it does, then you definitely have a phone addiction. I want to add here that I recently went to get my hair styled, and I was on my way to an appointment, and within a few minutes of leaving the house, I realized I forgot my phone. Now, my hair appointments can take 2 hours. Yes, I cover my grays and get it cut and styled and all of that. But literally my heart sank within 5 minutes of leaving the house and realizing I didn't have my phone. And I actually pushed through that. I told myself I refused to turn around and let that sinking feeling, affect me going to my appointment and that like panicked thought. And I refused to go home and get the phone. I let the phone, and of course I came back 2 hours later and everything was fine. But that was a really good indication to me that I am, without a doubt, addicted to my phone, even with everything I've done over the past year. The new sponsor for this podcast is the Shopkeepers Academy. Tell me if you can relate to this as a shopkeeper. You crave sisterhood from other retail shop owners going through the same thing. You desperately search online for tools or education that will help you get ahead as a business owner, but Google is exhausting because you're busy running a business. And when you do find resources online, it isn't tailored to your type of business, an independent retail store. You need the guidance of lessons and information that empower you to keep your business afloat, or better yet, thriving in this stressful world. That's where the Shopkeepers Academy comes in. The Shopkeepers Academy is an online platform that was built specifically for independent retail business owners. It's a one-stop shop to sign up for education and community. Whether you want to grab an affordable ebook like a 9-page shipping guide, or get access to a comprehensive list of lessons by subscribing to the Shopkeepers Learning Lab, or if you want to join Master Shopkeepers, and that's a paid mastermind group of brick and mortar store owners, you'll know that every option in the Academy was designed for you, the independent retail business owner. I want to help all brick and mortar retailers work less and profit more. Is this what you want too? Visit shopkeepersacademy.com for more information. Okay, so tip number 3 is go look at your screen time stats. And this is in the settings app in your iPhone. I don't know what it is if you have an Android, but I'm guessing it's the same. In an iPhone, it's called screen time stats. Many of you will be blown away, like I was, at how much time you're spending in your phone and on what portion of your phone, like which apps. There was a time when I looked at my screen time stats and I saw on my phone that I was spending 10 plus hours each day. That's crazy. Even worse, and I'll admit that this was over the past 2 months, I looked at my screen time stats and I realized I was on Facebook. Now, this does include Facebook business pages, groups, all of that, but I was on over 30 hours in 1 week. And I will admit that this was a season in my life where I was managing 2 Facebook pages, 2 Facebook groups, doing a little bit of volunteer work on another social media page, doing work on my husband's Facebook page. So, of course, I was doing a lot and that season has passed, but it's still ridiculous that I was on Facebook for 30 plus hours in 1 week. I'm exhausted just thinking about it. But I was also astounded. When you look at these stats, you'll see which apps on your phone are sucking the life out of you, literally. Okay, so tip number 4 is to set downtime, and that's what it's called in an iPhone. You can do this within the screen time setting in your iPhone. So for me, once I realized I had spent 30 plus hours on Facebook in a week, I really went all in on setting limitations in my phone. So I decided that from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., I won't use my phone. You can still access texting and phone calls, and that's important to me in case of an emergency. But if I open up my phone at 10:01 p.m., all of the apps, aside from text messages and the phone itself, they're grayed out. I can't use them. And yes, you can override this. If you click on the app, it'll tell you, like, do you want to ignore it for 1 minute or 15 minutes? But when that reminder pops up in my screen when I'm trying to get into an app after 10 p.m., it actually helps me because I realize that I made a conscientious decision to limit my phone use. When I see that reminder, oftentimes I just close the app out and put my phone down. On occasion, yeah, there might be an instance where I just really need to get in the app and do something done, but it has helped tremendously. So from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., I can't use my phone. I can't use the apps, I should say, on my phone. Something you should seriously consider, that's 8 hours. I might even consider extending that from like 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., but I haven't done that yet. Tip number 5 is to set app limits. Again, you could do this in the screen time area too on an iPhone. I now set a 1-hour limit for Facebook. So if you think back to my 30+ hour week, that was over 4 hours a day. I now limit it to 1 hour. Yep, I go over that 1 hour sometimes, and depending on what's going on, I choose the setting that allows me to use the app the rest of the day without limitations, but setting an app limit has genuinely helped. It forces me to be really productive and efficient while I am actually on the app. It also keeps me from the rabbit hole of scrolling. I don't have time for that. I really don't, especially in Q4, right? And then tip number 6 is if you want to take it even further, you can actually set communication limits with contacts in your phone. So that means I could, let's say for instance, I could limit the amount of time I spend on the phone between text messages and maybe phone calls with my sister. You can limit that with a specific person. Is your mind blown right now? Because I didn't even realize that you can do this. Now, I personally haven't chosen to add limitations here with direct communication with individual people because phone calls and texting are not what's consuming my time. But this will be different for everyone, and I wanted to make sure I mentioned it in case it's helpful to someone. So when people ask how I run 2 businesses, a household with a family, and still find time to get out and exercise and do other things, the reason is I'm really strategic about my time. Is my process perfect? No, it sure isn't. I have seasons in life just like everyone else. There are unexpected situations that come up. I am constantly tweaking and adjusting my strategy around time. But to me, progress is better than perfection here. So to quickly summarize the 6 tips. Number 1, turn off phone notifications. Number 2, use airplane mode. Number 3, look at your screen time stats and then do something about it. Number 4, set downtime. Number 5, set app limits. And number 6, set communication limits. If you have another phone tip, I'd love to hear about it. Please DM me on Instagram. And my username on Instagram is @SavvyShopkeeper. Now, if you want to see the show notes to this episode or you want to be reminded of the list of tips I've given, you'll always find this information on my blog at savvyshopkeeper.com/episode 49. And if you have a moment, I would truly appreciate a podcast app rating and review. You can do this on the Apple Podcast app. I love featuring a shopkeeper who leaves a review, and I do this usually at the start of each episode. I'll mention you and your store in the podcast. Just make sure you leave your name and store name in the review because I can't always see that. We'll mention and link your website in the episode's blog post too. Until the next episode, be savvy and boss up.